Yeah.
He's up for the
I don't know if I love Liza Minnelli, but she is perfect in that film.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about Liza Minnelli? I'll leave you guys alone for like 1 minute. Liza Minnelli.
That's my fault. I was telling them I sung in front of people this week.
Yeah, I got introduced to that movie way back in back in the 90s from one of my old exes. He was obsessed with that movie.
Alex, what are you doing singing in front of folk? Didn't Gary came away?
What?
You said you were singing in front of folk. Didn't Gary came away, fuck's sake.
I didn't have a choice.
Don't do it for free.
What was that?
I was saying to them, I have a thing called masterclass, and essentially they just pick someone from the class to perform, and then they rip the shit out of you, and that's the class.
Sounds fun.
Well, they fucking ripped the shit out you, did they? So, I think we had a trip down south. Somebody's doing a trip in.
Breaks their knees.
To be fair, I got a lot of constructive criticism, which was good, it's needed. But the guy that runs the class, he because obviously you speak to him afterwards, get tips from the actual professional or whatever. And he was like, I liked your first version better than when you did all the stuff with the criticisms. And I was like, yes.
That's probably because when you did the first one, you were thinking, right, I've got this thing to tweak, this thing to tweak, this thing to tweak.
Also, Zenbloke, I don't know if you know this, but I'm very talented.
It's actually very true.
Yeah, you'll get used to Alyx's incredible ability to be humble as fuck on the podcast.
Gigantic
to be honest, I mean, I know you've been on the Fawk Chronicles with us sometimes there, Alyx, but never really get to hear that much from you, so it's nice to actually get to properly talk to you.
All I do is chat shit. That's my role here.
Yeah.
We're content creators.
It is also nice to talk to you.
Yeah, we're content creators. That's part of what we do.
Notice how Zenbloke doesn't be a fuck about troll, eh?
I don't think I've actually had the pleasure before.
No, I am a new dad, so I never actually get to drop into the unmonetizables, sadly.
Well,
usually...
in that case, all I can say is get your sister behind wire, because little fingers have come. You'll spend a good chunk of time going, I wonder when they roll over, and then when they roll over, you and your partner will look at each other and go, oh fuck, they can roll over.
Uh-oh.
Shit comes on you faster than you know, brother.
It's evolving.
It's crazy. press B, cancel evolution. Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. This is the Unofficial Official Podcast. As always, we've got the terrible trio. You've got me, Eloise Music, or Alyx, you get Captain Privilege, as well as Zenbloke, we're joined by this week. Hello.
Do we not get to say hi this week? Or
no, you don't.
No? Okay.
I told you, Alyx, he's hungover. Just let him be. He's not in a good place this week. I don't know why, but it's just his attitude stinking.
It's really funny because I haven't drank a drop, and I do feel hungover because I stayed up too late. My head's like pounding. I'm like, what the actual fuck? What is
there
going
are currently 5 empty wine bottles on my floor from last night.
Ah, man.
There are currently 5 empty huge bottles of Peroni on my table.
Woo!
I don't know how they compare. I was drinking last night.
Oh, no, we would never.
No.
Particularly the night before the podcast, because we're very dedicated.
Certainly.
True.
Zenbloke, when was the last time you were drinking and singing, or singing and drinking, or individually?
Well, actually, I don't drink. The last time I got drunk, it was only the first time I got drunk, and I was 16, and I'm 45, so that's a fair wee while ago.
Oh,
singing,
you're
however,
so much smarter.
Singing, however, is a different matter. Probably at work, alone in the warehouse, and Rammstein came on in my Spotify selection, and I couldn't help myself.
Well, that's just natural, though, isn't it? Yeah, I've noticed that a few times that you're, so to speak, teetotal when it comes to the booze, man. It's quite a respectable decision, quite a commendable decision. Do you find yourself in situations regularly where you're like, oh my god, look at the state he's on? Or do you tend not to
I've
surround
had that a
yourself?
few times in my life. Sometimes it's been entertaining watching the people around me disintegrate.
Yeah.
Getting all sloppy and messy with it, huh?
Yeah. Although there was many times through my like 20s and 30s, there were times I've been in social situations like such as Hogmanay and stuff,
Mhm.
and with people going, "Take a drag bag, man," and
Oh,
I
no.
dunno.
Yeah.
It was like that Chewing the Fat sketch. It really was.
God damn, nah, I'm off it. Well, for anyone who doesn't know,
I actually do know this
I know.
week. Yay!
That's an inside joke there, Zenbloke. Usually when I say that, it's a cue for Alyx to listen because they don't know what exactly
Yeah.
I'm about to refer to. But this is just me actually prompting. Zenbloke is a content creator, as said before, a YouTuber, and quite a good one at that. He likes to dabble in the technical aspects of gaming consoles and computery and digital, all them good things digital. And as you may have picked up from his Rammstein reference, he's a bit of a good old metal head as well, so we know he has taste in music, unlike Troll.
I think you find I like one Rammstein song.
Did you just say I like Gordon Ramstein's song?
That's what I
I
have.
wish. Yeah, that would be a mashup of the cover.
It's fucking
Oh,
raw!
I'm just hearing an auto-tuned remix bit of Gordon Ramsay. What are you? I'm a shit sandwich. You know, it's like...
So, Zembo, how is content creation treating you in the time of COVID?
It's tricky to say the least because you have to dance around the language of how you mention things within the times of Voldemort, which is how a lot of us YouTubers have had to sort of nickname the current condition so that we do not get hammered by the algorithm and YouTube's silly little rules and all its finger waving and its ability to bring down the ban hammer. So yeah, it's like it's hard when you actually have a story to speak upon it that includes that particular aspect. So the dancing around it is tedious to say the least.
I've certainly noticed a lot of YouTubers like using the alternate phrases, like calling it the coof, the vid, the chai con flu, and all these sort of weird ways of getting around it. Because yeah, even if you mention it, I've heard even mention the lockdown itself could quite literally trigger all sorts of alarms and what have you. And like whenever you're posting anything like that on like TikTok or anything daft, it's always coming with a warning label.
Yes, you find yourself having to say things like in the current situation.
Yeah.
In these usual times.
Like sounds like we live in some sort of like absolute fascist regime where we're just all avoiding speaking about the government or something. It's fucking brilliant. But
Yes.
probably
Clear the streets. The wanted man Montag is out and about. Clear the streets. Do not come into contact with Montag. I've probably lost some of the audience for that reference.
That's quite a bit.
So lost.
I know these young bucks don't really keep up to date with culture, old fine art, shall we say? Speaking of which,
Yes.
Correct.
What's been your experience with like YouTube and content creation as the whole? I know you've been at it for a good little while now.
Yeah, I've been at it for a better part of a decade.
I was trying to be euphemistic about it. Not,
I've had a lot
age,
of very interesting experiences. Some of them are IRL experiences, some of them are experiences with podcasts, some of them are just experiences with just how I've seen the platform shift and change. Mostly it's about the people I've met along the way.
By shift and change,
like,
you mean like mutate horribly into this absolute godless monster that it's become?
Well, it pretty much was a godless monster, but now it's a godless monster that's controlled by a bigger, badder godless monster. Because it has to be said that, like, as useful as Google is, and as great as it is to have their computing power and their storage facilities, the corporate culture and the decision-making processes that come from that particular entity are often more than baffling.
Sounds. Just give me a wee second till I edit all that bit out so Susan Wojcicki and Google don't try and fuck us. Cool, right, no worries.
I'm trying to express myself in such a way where it's not actionable in a court of law.
The regime. Do not offend the sacred regime. No, yeah, I think it's really interesting because, like, I mean, I've only been at it about literally half the time you've been at it, but almost as soon as I started making content on YouTube, it was fucking every other 3 to 6 months was just a hardcore right turn, left turn.
Sorry.
So that was troll. I was like,
I wish.
So you want to know fake sneeze in the middle of the podcast, please?
Well, that was Alyx.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I didn't hear the sound of somebody leave the room like they were going to make a mug of tea.
No, it's my brand new snowball mic. It's too sexy and powerful and picks up everything in the room. So do excuse the Mrs. Privilege leaving the room because she can't be yours listening to my dulcet tones.
That's fair. I know how that feels.
I mean, she doesn't live with you, so I do understand
I
that.
think the one, yeah.
As I was trying to say, like, content-wise, like I've seen YouTube pivot very hard in the 5 years I've been on it. Every 6 months, it was an adpocalypse here or an algorithm change there, and before you knew it, all kinds of videos were being suppressed. And you've watched the titling and thumbnailing specifically more so over the past, I'd say 5 to 7 years maybe, just getting more and more egregious and more ridiculous, till there were literally ways of hacking the algorithm through using certain coding within your title, so to speak. Coding's maybe a bit of a full-on term, but you're literally like, folk were like typing the number of views for something to get. Go and deal with that, please, Dan. Typing the number of views in a video, and it would somehow trigger the algorithm to assume that this video was of that caliber, therefore would recommend it with other videos with such views and stuff. Then we had the great scammer folk were literally like, and still do, by the way, managed to get adverts that will play entire half-hour to hour to 2 hour long videos in front of someone's content as an advert. It was, oh man.
I've seen them in the middle of content as well.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
What I used to hate
I'm
was
like listening to
Sorry, Nico.
I'm like listening to David Dooley, or whatever. It's like, because I like a lot of left-leaning news media, and all of a sudden the video will be bisected by this 45-minute like infomercial.
Well, I feel like
ridiculous.
A lot of that's kind of calmed down now, and YouTube's somewhat finding its niche.
Oh, I don't know. You get fucking hundreds of ads and videos now. They're not like long, but there's fucking hundreds of them.
Yeah, it's the YouTuber getting pretty comfortable with the 2 unskippable ads at the start. You're like, can you not?
Can you
just
not?
Do one?
Yeah.
Just do one and let me skip it, because I didn't come here to watch ads and I'm not going to buy any of this shit.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend using ad blocker that you can download and install on your Firefox quite easily. But if you were to do so, I think it would make the experience a hell of a lot easier. I've noticed on my phone a lot more recently, and I think it's more egregious because we've had such lulls and waves, as we've been talking about. There was adpocalypses where we went from getting some ads to fucking no ads, to getting a few ads here and there, to now we're like, when people are getting monetized, they're just going crazy with it, like you're saying, slapping ads all over your shit. Now, I know you like to be somewhat advertiser friendly, would be the best way to put it, Zenbloke, yeah?
Not advertiser friendly. I prefer myself to be family friendly. I want anybody to be able to access my content.
I didn't want to use that phrase if it was the wrong one, but it turns out it was the
decision I made quite a long time ago was I wanted to make sure that anybody could watch my stuff, be they like 10 years old or 50 years old. I want everybody to be welcome, and that's something I've held to. That's why I do not swear in my content. Admittedly, I'll swear on Twitter, on Twitch, I mean. But when it comes to my YouTube, which is my main electronic bread and butter, then that's where, I don't swear. There is one video where I let rip, but that was when PlayStation, back at the 20th anniversary of PlayStation itself, had made a particularly boneheaded PR blunder that royally riled me up. And I was on the way home from work. I'd had a bad day at work. I read this on the bus. I got off the bus, went into a bus shelter, and ranted for a solid 20 minutes about 50% of it being swearing. And that video was age-gated.
The bastards.
So, you know.
No, but
I mean,
again,
when the time takes me, I can turn the air blue as well as any other Scotsman.
That's it. I mean, that's what I was saying. I was trying not to use the phrase family friendly in case it was, somewhat euphemistic or cuckening in any way, shape, or form. But, you're Scottish, so we all know you can swear like a sailor.
I actually like to think of it as the USP.
Yeah. But I think what question is with that then is, like, how has that served your content? Have you seen a lot of ads on your content over the years? Have you had that capability because you've stayed family friendly?
When I first finally started to actually get some traction, once I got like above 100 subscribers, way back in the mists of yore, I did have the ability to have monetized content, and the only reason I flicked the switch to say yes, I thought it made me look more legitimate as a YouTuber.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this guy's got videos, he must be alright. That's the only reason I clicked it. And then the entire time that I was monetized, before they changed the regulations of how much watch time and how many subscribers you have to have, and blah, 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 I think I made something in the order of about $13.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Cash money,
It's still sitting there in the AdSense account, but chances are, if I could do it, what I'd prefer to do is I would rather not turn on the monetization if I ever manage to reach that place, and be purely on a Patreon model. I would rather have a small hardcore of about 50 to 100 people that would chuck me £1 a month, so that I could plough that money into better equipment and things like a passport, so I could travel to conventions and stuff, and like just have like a really good green screen, a really good camera, and not rely upon the edit suite of my PlayStation 4. Have really nice stuff so that I can really up the level of the content.
Don't you say bad things about the Share Factory, okay? That served me well, and for people in the future...
Oh, it serves me wonderfully. I really do appreciate Share Factory, and I'm hoping, like, against all hope, that there is a Share Factory
2
on PlayStation 5.
I swear to God, that was one of the biggest comments when we were watching the PS5 reveal. Like, myself, Troll, and Alyx were watching the PS5 reveal live, and like every other game reveal, everyone was like, Share Factory 2. Share Factory 2.
Yeah.
But also...
I've been saying so in prognostication videos of PlayStation 5 for the longest time. I need this piece of software, and I really like it. But it's not perfect, and it's never going to be like a professional piece of software.
But it doesn't need to be, bro. You know what I mean? Essentially, it's a clip editing tool, which I've found very, very useful in the short term. But there was thing you did say...
I have an audiovisual background because I studied audiovisual technology at Stevenson College. I did an NC, an HNC, and a third of an HND. So I've kind of got a background in this.
What's the third of an HND as well?
Well, basically, what it was, dear listener, is that I started the third year, but was unable to complete it because basically I had to move out of my mother's, and I moved into a council flat, and because I was then a student and having a council flat, I couldn't actually apply for housing benefit. That was the year they actually turned it off for students.
Wow.
So it was either quit college and become homeless. It's like
it's a hard choice.
It's like, and then the homelessness would have made me, being homeless would have kicked me out of college anyway, because you need to have a place of residence. So I had to bite the bullet, leave college, and sign on.
Yeah, sorry to probe that raw memory there. That was quite uncool for you. And something you did say as well earlier, just for the people listening to this in the future, Zenbloke mentioned going to conventions. That was a thing we used to do, where we all used to gather round in massive arenas and shoulder to shoulder, sometimes not even covering our mouths when we sneezed or coughed or washing properly, and swarming in a mass of people to
huddled, sweaty bodies huddled
to
together.
finger and touch machines and products all over.
Fingering what?
Machines and products, you know.
Whoa.
You used to line up and get a shot of controllers that I'm pretty sure weren't getting wiped down after you used them. But yeah.
Proof, this sounds a bit crazy to me.
Yeah.
That sounds like a conspiracy theory. Like I made it up. But this is an episode of Ancient Aliens. You know, like, did they go to conventions or was it actually all aliens? Yeah, did you have you? I know you've been to some conventions. I know you mentioned you've been to Resonate and stuff a few times.
Yeah, I've been to Resonate for the last 3 or 4 of them, and the last 2 or 3 I've actually been given the ultimate accolade of having a press pass, which has been a lovely thing to be able to say.
Nice, bro. I bet you're walking around like fucking Wayne's World, like when they get into the fucking.
in my head, that's what's happening.
Yeah,
in my head.
Walk around showing it to everyone.
You know, like but on the outer, I'm trying to keep it professional. Like I'm walking around, I have a T-shirt that I wear when I'm at a convention that got printed, that basically has a large version of my logo on the front of it, and then on the back of it has a QR code that'll take you to the channel.
Nice.
I like that.
Oh, cool.
And I showed it off to Meg Turney when I met her at Glasgow Comic Con a few years ago, and she was like, "That's such a good idea," and I was like, "Ooh, high flight YouTuber give me praise." I'm happy about it.
There you go, Alyx. Zenbloke just went up to you a little bit there. Name dropping on the podcast. You can't do that yet, Alyx, can you, huh? But yeah, QR codes are a peach, because you know I think when they first came out, everyone was like, "Wow, that's a cool idea," and done some interesting things with them. But since then, to maybe about like last year or so, they kind of died down. The usage wasn't as far spread. But then
you are wrong.
But
they've actually gotten a little bit more prevalent.
Yeah,
Track and trace, baby.
Kind of got a little useful in the past year or so. So that's very interesting. What made you go with the QR code though? That's an outside the box idea. I suppose because you're techie minded, you kind of went,
yeah,
let's do this.
Well, I thought people don't always carry a pen, but they can easily download an app to scan a code.
Yeah. Plus, iPhones and stuff have it automatically built in now. Like you literally open your camera, it recognises your QR code, goes, go to this website.
Now.
Yeah, now that's what I'm saying. Like before, like I'd always had phones and computers and whatnot, but I found it quite hard to get my head around that initially. But on a recent, or let's say this year, visit to a restaurant, it was that simple case. I'll just point your phone at it. What?
Yeah, I have to admit, when it comes to QR codes, there was an occasion about 5-6 years ago. There was a bloke walking through the St. James Centre where I used to work, and he had this T-shirt that had this big QR code in the front, and I had the QR code reader on my phone, and like I sort of held the phone up to it, read the code. I went, oh. And it wasn't a QR code. It was just something that looked like a QR code. It was just like just a graphic.
How many times?
Disappointed.
How many times must he have had random people come up and just pointing at a photo of his chest? He's like, "Can you just leave me alone, please? It's not a QR code. It's just a design, for God's sake."
He did seem a little confused at what I was doing, so I was probably the first bloke to do it.
This is odd.
At least the first one he noticed. Then he wrote.
Would you at least ask if I've got an OnlyFans before you just start taking pictures of my chesticle, please?
Right. Oh God! I think that's the only thing I don't have. I mean, I've got Twitter, I've got Twitch, I've got.
Yet.
I used to have Snapchat. I've got Instagram. It's like I've got I've got a PlayStation community. I've got a Redbubble store. God almighty.
Yeah, like at what point does it become too much? You know, I know with Fawk we're spread pretty thin. At one point, I was doing the Reddit, I was doing the Discord, I was doing the Twitter, I was doing the fucking. I think we even had a Facebook at one point, but it was becoming a bit too much to try and dedicate enough time within the confines of having like a full-time job. Even just dedicating a couple of nights a week to sitting and going through Reddit and trying to keep up with that community, and then sitting and trying to go through your Twitter, and then sitting and trying to go through 5-10 various Discord. I mean, I know you got more Discord servers than me, and I had to cut off a bunch of them probably about the start of the year, the start of the time that we shall not mention, because
the end times.
in the time of go, and I just couldn't. I couldn't keep up with it. Man. Like, do you find that quite easy, natural, or do you space that out, or have you given up with some of these apps or these platforms?
Corona world premiere.
You make it sound like an Xbox title.
Yeah. We watched the Xbox showcase as well, so Alyx is quite taken with the world premieres. Sorry.
That's the thing. I mean, even though I'm primarily a PlayStation guy, because I cover gaming, I find
because
myself
it's the better console. Let's be honest.
I watch everything, you know. Although I don't do so much when it comes to Nintendo, but that's because I find if I report upon Nintendo, then Nintendo go roar.
Yes.
So I stay clear of those stuff.
I'll
talk about them, but I don't flash any logos or anything.
I'm very butthurt when it comes to Nintendo because I grew up with Nintendo. It was what it was all about, and I can always remember, like, we were heavily reading the magazines back in the day. For those that don't know, magazines were these printed bits of glossy paper that people would turn like an iPad. Instead of swiping up, you would swipe left and the page would turn. And the magazines were quite honestly telling us that we're going to explode in the kitchen. Apparently, we're going to keep going with games for the keep supporting the N64, which was actually antithetical to what they were doing, which was slowly but surely preparing for the Nintendo Games Cube. Yep.
What does antithetical mean?
It means saying one thing and meaning another, I think.
So they were lying?
Yes, that's the one I probably should have said instead of
there we go.
Smart and maybe getting pulled up on not knowing the real meaning of a word. But yeah, I got butthurt when they over that. Back in the day, we switched to PlayStation. I think it was PlayStation 2 when we first do it. Like, my father and I first invested our time and efforts into Sony. But then jumping into content creation, finding out that Nintendo were being dicks about this kind of thing. Any slight reference to their stuff. I remember there was an Angry Joe video where he was trying to review, I don't know if it was literally the console or something, but even having a Mario picture, a JPEG on the screen, they were claiming it. So he downloaded, so he took the video down, re-edited it to have Mario with his middle finger up, moving across the screen in a ping pong fashion, and they were still claiming it. Eventually, he showed you, like, he'd went to such lengths of having like all kinds of filters, and it was moving at like 10 times the speed across the screen and phasing in and out with other images grafted over that just to get this cleared. And he's like, this is ridiculous. Like, we're trying to support your stuff here, and you're not supporting
Nintendo
the creators.
are long known for the litigious nature.
Yeah, which is kind of weird when you consider
it's stupid because it's free publicity. It's like let's review this and get the word out, and then it's like, no, just our advertising. You're like, that's dumb.
It's almost like
I mean, even their people that they work with, they crap all over.
That's it. I know, like, you had to be part of the partnership program, and to be part of the partnership program, for want of alliteration, you had to adhere to a shit ton of rules. No spoilers, no cutscenes. There was all kinds of fuckery within the agreement, and even then, that quote-unquote partnership program, they were taking a bulk of the revenue, or a good chunk of the revenue at least, off these so-called partners, and it was a nightmare to get the partnership program. This was back in the day. I do believe in the past few years they've somewhat laxed their policy, but
they've relaxed pieces of it.
Yes, they haven't fully renounced their old archaic ways that are akin to like the music industry, just nickel and diming and scratching and scraping for every bit of relevance that they can get, as opposed to moving like water, for lack of a better term. Water flows in the shape of the landscape, essentially, and it's the best way to move with the tide, so to speak. Anyway.
Well, you say that, and we're talking Nintendo, you just make me think of Wet Tricks.
Don't say Wet Tricks. So I was literally drinking water when you said that, and it kind of made me think twice.
I'll tell you one thing though, if there's anything I'd love to see a games company do, is like, I'm sure everybody here knows of the channel PlayStation Access.
Yeah, it is. Is that the one that tells you the PS Plus games every month?
Yeah, and among other things, it's sort of like
that's what I use it for.
It's based in England and all the rest of it. It's like, because that's like the UK PlayStation channel, and of course there's the big PlayStation channel.
Is someone trying to diddle R2D2 here? What's going on?
Nah, it's my second house phone. Probably somebody trying to sell me like double glazing or a kitchen or something. Not many people actually ring my phone.
For those that don't know, a house phone is a mobile phone that's connected to the walls.
It's a phone sans mobile.
Yeah. Anyway, and it's sort of like, I've had this little dream for the last few years that sort of like, once we finally gain independence for Scotland, that there could be like a Scottish YouTube channel, and if that ever happens, I will apply so hard to be part of it.
Oh, you should definitely qualify, man. I mean, at the end of the day, you've been on point with your content. You do have like say, a family-friendly vibe going. You have the capability to hone in on that sort of market, and at the same time present yourself pretty well. But the thing is, with Zenbloke, like as you can imagine if you've been listening to this, he's quite a real person. Unlike some of these YouTube channels where you'll get people, and it's quite clear that they actually wanted a job in the media industry, reading from a teleprompter. All the jokes are so disgusting and so well pre-plotted out, and it's just, it doesn't come across as a real person. I think that's why I gravitate to like podcasts and like content such as
it's very rare that I use a script.
Yeah.
And even when I've had a quote-unquote scripted video, what it generally has tended to be is like an A4 sheet of points I want to hit, put in front of me on the table. But basically everything comes right out the old grey matter.
Don't say grey matter, I like that. Right, well, now's the perfect time for me to throw curveballs left and right to my co-hosts and cohorts.
Yes.
And you've got a great chance here, guys. Okay, we have a decade-old YouTuber here with fucking hard in the paint amounts of knowledge on the platform. I want some cracking questions about content, about Zenbloke, and about his career in YouTube and in content creation. Alyx, go.
Okay. Right. I know, I actually do have a question. I'm just trying to think how to word it. How do you like keep up the motivation? Because like at the minute I am at uni and stressed, and like the concept of having to record something before next Friday is like making me want to die. So how do you like keep motivation up?
Please don't die.
I think my main motivation is just for the fact I just really love gaming, and I'm an opinionated bugger.
Also, I have to say, I love your videos because, right, they talk about, so I'm not a techie person at all, right? But I actually understand your content because you do like the basic stuff and then the less basic stuff, and I'm like, oh, makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
highly
like that.
enjoy.
Like, you try to bring a level of relatability. I mean, like when everybody was talking about teraflops, there's all teraflops this and teraflops that.
Buzzword.
I actually took the time to do research. You actually learned things. Yeah,
The R word
I
of this
actually
podcast.
I went to the internet and I actually found out what is a teraflop and what makes it work and how it actually is. You know, so then I could then find a way to analogize it for people who don't have a technical background, such as other audience members like yourself. So then people could get a grip on it, so then they could actually be part of the conversation.
Without having to go and get a third of an HNC just to find out what the hell the goddamn teraflop is.
Oh, that was a good one.
Sorry.
That was a stota Trev. Nicely done, mate.
Yeah, call back, buddy.
Come on, Troll. What's yours then, brother?
What was your first game? What actually got you into gaming?
Oofed. Put the guy in the spot and date. Fuck it.
The first game I remember playing, I must have been about 4, and I grew up very, very close to Leaf Docks, and there was a cafe. I would like to say under the house, but I don't know because when you're that young, it's just a blur. Yeah. And basically, I remember there was this cafe that my mum and dad used to take us to, and in the cafe there was a tabletop 2-player Galaxian.
Jesus.
And, that was basically as far as I'm aware, my first gaming experience, and it really stuck with me. Right. As far as it goes for the first system I ever properly owned, I was probably when I was about 8 or 9. My mum, somehow, being a single mum on benefits, because Scottish mums are amazing, somehow scraped together the money to buy me and my sister Commodore 16. Not a 64.
Wow.
Commodore 16.
I didn't even know that existed.
Nobody ever talks about. Nobody ever talks about the 16.
There was something before the 64, bro. What?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like so we had a Commodore 16, and we had all these mad games like Pizza Pete and Mr. Puniverse and Kickstart, which is based off the old BBC programme, had the same theme tune.
Yeah, theme tune loosely there. Yeah, a series of beeps and whirs and buzzing noises, somewhat in the key of the theme tune.
Yeah, and that was the first gaming system I ever had, and then obviously throughout the time before getting anything else, then I did a lot of time with the arcades. I missed the arcades.
I think we need to unpack some
through
of
the
things.
arcades. I mean, I was actually the second person in Edinburgh to ever play Virtua Fighter.
Whoa!
Oh,
because
did you win
me and my mate at the time, well, it was just me and my mate Callum, and we went in just as they were rolling it into LA Amusements on Lothian Road, and this is when you could still smoke in places. We're talking like the mid-90s here, and we walked in, and they literally rolled it in and plugged it in front of us. And
you could still smoke in places in the 90s.
Yeah.
And like we rock paper scissors for who was going to play first. Callum won, and
fucking
arcade
Callum.
machines back then used to have a little sort of metal plate on the left and or the right side for you to put your fag, so it would hang off the edge, so you wouldn't lose your cigarette. He put his the wrong way round and burned the right side Formica on top of it, and nearly got us chucked out.
Oh wow!
And so after he had his go, I had mine.
Right, who done better? More importantly. Yeah. Take that, Callum. Take that.
You would say that.
Yeah, and I do want to unpack a couple of things you said as well. You mentioned something called a cafe. For folk in the future, it's a place where we used to go to eat things. Also, a Commodore 16. What the fuck did that run off? For people that don't know, Commodore 64s ran off cassette tapes. What the fuck was a
16?
What was a 16 running off of?
It was also running on cassettes. In fact, the cassette deck was exactly the same unit.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry, I was worried it was like some sort of vinyl computer game mechanism that I hadn't heard
Are we
of.
going to explain for future people what a cassette is?
No, they can fuck off.
However, there was, I believe for the 64, there was also an attachment where you could put on one of the very early floppy disk units.
Yes. I think I had that, but it didn't work. Or I didn't have any floppy disks for it. So that's
which is weird. I mean, because the BBC Acorn Electron, which is a far simpler machine, that ran entirely on floppy disk.
Is that like the old BBC computers they used to put in schools and whatnot?
Yes.
Yeah, you had like Frog.
Yeah.
And you had
Math Worm and stuff.
Frogger.
Where a worm would drop down to the bottom of the screen, and the amount of shots you would get to shoot at the worms would be determined by how many math problems you correctly solve.
Education and gaming.
Fun, yeah. I think
Mathgames.com.
The coolest, the only thing, the coolest thing we ever managed to do with the BBC back in my day was literally, was there not a tortoise, like a mechanized tortoise little fucking robot thing that you could program to move?
There was one called the mouse that was kind of like a plastic elongated dome.
Yeah,
with wheels in it and a bunch of computery bits, and you can make it go around a maze if you programmed it correctly.
Yeah, that's the bad boy. Yeah. I don't think we ever go as far as making it go around a maze. I think making it go forward was.
There was also a point when my school somehow it got like some sort of deal with like IBM, and we got like this one IBM computer that for the time was like,
oh yes,
but now would just be outshone by your average smartphone. It's like a £30 smartphone out of like Tesco, you know. It's like,
oh yeah, easily.
It's like and this IBM computer stand white and proud in the left corner of the computer lab. The rest of it was all BBC Acorn Electrons, and it was like if you ever got a chance to go on this computer, it was like the thing. And I liked going on it because I've always been quite arty, and I drew this incredible picture. But obviously, bits had to be drawn for the bits to get the pieces right and all the rest of it. So, like when it finally printed out, it just printed out as an entire black mass because I'd layered things on top of things, and it didn't actually have the computing power to actually display the top layer and not just all the layers at once. So it was just this black mass that got printed out in black and white, and all my wonderful colours were left in the computer.
I mean, I probably could go into something about a giant, proud white computer printing out a black mass, but I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-foot bar pole. Not in these times, certainly. Listen, Zenbloke, this has been an absolute pleasure. I know we did, I certainly screwed up a little bit this morning and started us off a tad late, and we do have somewhat of a time constraint to hit, so I think now it would be as good a time as ever to wrap it for the time being. But I can certainly speak for my guests that this has been an interesting and fun one. It's been hell of a good to get to know you a little better and get to delve into your content creation stuff. Hopefully get you back again in the future.
I would say to any listeners out there, if indeed you yourself are a Scottish content creator, I am actually, for the last couple of months, I've been trying to put together a podcast of fellow Scottish gaming YouTubers. If you believe you would like to come along in such an endeavour, then do feel free to hit me up through any one of my platforms that you care to use. It would also be especially helpful if you are willing to not swear in the content because I'd like to maintain the family-friendly vibe of my channel.
Which is the only
That
reason
also
I
would be
haven't
awesome.
volunteered, because I'm shit scared I might swear my arse off through mistake. But I have been trying somewhat, maybe not today, but in general, trying to tame down my swearing a wee bit more. So possibly in the future, I might be able to throw my hat in the ring on that stuff. But you mentioned all your various platforms, bro. Where and how can people find Zenbloke?
Indeed. Let's see. Obviously, there's the YouTube channel. That was where all got kicked off. There's my Twitter, which is @Zenbloke. There is my PlayStation community, which is the Zenbloke channels and stuff. There's the Redbubble store. Just type Zenbloke into Redbubble, you should find me fairly easily. There's my Instagram, which is Zenbloke_YT. That's also the same as my PSN, my PlayStation Network ID, which is, of course, Zenbloke_YT. It was meant to be Zenbloke, which is what I wanted to change it to after they finally, many years of complaining to Sony of getting to change our PlayStation Network names. I wanted to change it purely to Zenbloke, but it wouldn't let me have it because it was in the middle of somebody else's name.
Mate, I wasn't going to do that. They were talking
That's
about it
weird.
screwing up your trophies and stuff and take away some of
Yeah.
your... like,
luckily,
you're not messing with my
luckily
trophies.
luckily that didn't happen to me. All my stuff moved over quite happily.
Nice.
But basically, when I first set up PSN, way back when it literally first started, it took all your details before asking what your name was. So like I added in all my details, and then it said, "What do you want to be called?" And I dutifully tapped in Zenbloke, and it said, "You can't have this. It's too close to your email." I was like, "Thanks." You know.
What?
Yeah, I know. I've never
That's
come across
dumb.
that before or since. Right? It's too close to your email. You can't have this. I thought, okay, I'll just come up with something now. I'll come back and I'll change it later. Oh God, how wrong was I?
Oh, yeah.
And then because the whole idea was I then came back with a different email account, that I created a different one just for that, and came back, signed in, and went, "No, you can change the email, but you can't change your name. You sons are screwed." I was like, "Oh fuck."
No, it's literally like an ongoing thing. Zenbloke's saying for since the PS3 that we couldn't change our names, and then literally I think it was just last year they said, right, you can change them, but beware. There is a chance it will screw a bunch of your saves and a bunch of your trophies.
And it did, however, afford me one thing. I was the last person to be read out for free on Kind of Funny Games Daily, PlayStation. I have a bad PlayStation Network name.
I remember that.
So basically, Andrea Renee and Greg Miller read out and talked about my PlayStation ID.
Nice.
That was when you didn't have to be a Patreon subscriber to get it to happen. So I was dancing, man.
That's awesome. Again, Alyx, step your game up, pal. You're needing some names to be dropping here, okay?
I'm working on it, bro. I've just been drunk messaged by BBC Introducing.
Yes.
You've been drunk messaged. You mean you've received a message while you're drunk and then drunkenly messaged them
they've
back?
drunk messaged me. They've drunk messaged me.
How do you get drunk messaged by the BBC?
You're the employing students, no doubt.
I'm assuming, right? So it was 2 in the morning when I got this message, and I only just picked it out now. But it's a sentence that makes no sense and it's quite rude. But it's when you're drunk and you just chat shit. That's what it is.
That's amazing.
Someone's forgot to log off from home. Oopsie. Right, folks. Again, perfect time to wrap it up. Thanks very much, Zenbloke. Again, we'll hopefully have you back again in the future. We can delve a little deeper into your actual content creation, routine, your equipment type stuff. Just a little more about you, the person, as opposed to you, the channel, and some more about your experiences. But yeah,
Cool.
That'd be cool, bro. And also you can catch Zenbloke fairly regularly over the Unmonetizables for his hot takes on some of the most trending and topical tat of the week. He's a very welcome and regular guest over there. So,
or fuzzy glow.
well, Troll, if you want to roll us out with your expert outros.
Thanks for tuning in. It's been fun.
Honestly, he does better than that. He does better than that, Zenbloke. He does
Yeah, this has been lit. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Check everybody out as we've heard. Zenbloke is on Zenbloke basically everywhere. As always, all the links will be in the old description if you're on Spotify or your own Apple playlists. You know, just fucking Google it.
Can I promo some shit whilst we're here?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm working on and releasing a 3-song EP with a friend from uni. So the first one will be out on Friday, hopefully. I need to record it. It's written, I just need to record it.
Call Yabby.
That's lit.
Awesome.
It should be cool. So yeah.
Excellent. Have a beautiful time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.